And H equals 12? W equals 12. Okay, good. So a quick refresher to get us up to speed because it's been a couple days. We have a ladder that's sliding down the wall. It's the bottom's kicking out, therefore you're sliding down the top of the ladder. At a rate of 2 feet per second, it's positive because G is getting bigger. And we want to figure out what is dW dt. Oops, I have an H in there.
That's because H makes more sense than W. I don't know what W could
Wall.
I don't know who started this mess, but we're going to go with the...
Kevin.
Who was responsible for this? Kevin?
Kevin.
Yeah, good. Way to go.
Makes sense, doesn't it?
Nice. W wall, G ground.
Oh.
I assume that's what you were using, or
Yeah.
W for wampin and G for great.
Wombo.
Or wombat.
Wombat,
Or wombo.
Whale.
I don't know what a wombo means, but...
Washing machine.
I wombo.
So we got a picture, we got our variables, we have our, what do we know, what are we looking for? We are looking for a general equation. What's our general equation here? Did we get to that point? No? Give it to me.
It's 20 squared, or you could just like this.
20 squared is equal to?
W squared plus G squared.
W squared plus G squared. Okay. So next step is we have to take the derivative of that. So what's the derivative of 20 squared? Zero. Initially, it seems like the length of the ladder is not relevant because it doesn't matter if the ladder's 20 feet, 2 feet, or a gabillion feet. When you take the derivative, it's going to cancel out and just disappear to zero. It does become relevant later on. All right, Noah, you started this mess. What's a derivative? We did that already. What's a derivative of the right side?
2W plus 2G.
Nope. 2W
dW over dt.
dW over dt plus
2G G, or dG over dt.
perfect. Hey, Noah, how many unknowns in that equation? 4. How many of the unknowns do we currently know? 2. We need to find the third somewhere. So now we do a sidebar. I'll do it up here. I have dg dt. I have w. I'd like to be able to get g. Yeah, do the Pythagorean theorem. So we know that w is going to be 12. So 12 squared plus g squared is equal to 20 squared, which is 400. So g squared is 400 minus 144 is 256. Is that a perfect square?
Yes.
16? 17? 16? 16. I'm going to put a box around that just because, actually I'm going to put a rectangle around that because it's a little sidebar there. We know G, we know W, we know dG dt, therefore we should be able to find dW dt, correct? Good, get out your calculators and find it. Get your calculator out, find it. ¿Dónde está su máquina de matemáticas? Ah, está aquí. Gracias.
Still counting down stuff from Friday.
Bueno, gracias.
Not there yet, no.
Noah, you looking for a friend to compare answers with?
Yes.
Okay. Are your friends lacking in their speed at which they solve the problem?
He just
No, I was
got
actually
here.
Oh,
I was actually faster than all that.
He's like a tortoise.
Really not around it.
As long as you get to the finish, man. I saw that all day yesterday.
I wasn't.
Oh, it was a blast.
How are you like standing?
Barely.
Yeah.
Actually, it's worse when I sit down because then when you get up, everything is all. It takes like 20 minutes to get out of the chair, so I'm better off standing and
Do you not?
I'm walking like an old man.
Did you, well, okay, no, if you did, 'cause if you did, then you didn't finish before me.
Are you guys done fighting?
Feet per second. Yeah.
Oh.
Negative 8 thirds.
I think there's problems in the relationship. Noah, what do you have?
Negative 8 thirds feet per second.
Negative 8/3. Or just for giggles, what's that as a decimal?
Negative 2.6666666.
Negative 5.6.
And again, the AP standard is 3 decimal places. And you said the units were
Feet per second.
feet per second. How do you do?
All right. Good.
Nice. Okay. Does that answer make sense, Noah?
Yes,
Why?
because it's you're going you're decreasing,
So what part of that answer makes sense based on what you just said?
having a negative sign.
Good. How about the 2.667? You feel good about that? Does it seem reasonable?
Yeah, you're not going.
I mean, this is sliding out at 2, so this will slide down at about somewhere around there. So we're good to go. Okay. Problems. Almost every problem that you approach, you're going to have some type of sidebar. It's just a matter of what it is you need to do in that sidebar. Usually it's used to find a piece of missing information. Pregunta?
So, you said it seems like the ladder doesn't really matter, but it does matter for the
It does
sidebar.
matter in the sidebar, correct.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we good on this one? Beautiful. You sure? Because I'm erasing.
Yes.
All right.
Airplane problem or boat problem?
Let's go back to the boat problem. In an effort to save a little bit of time, I set it up for you. If we had more time, what I would have done is just presented the problem to you and then talk about how we want to set it up. There's 2 ways to set up this problem. Well, there's probably more than 2, but 2 main ways. Well, let's back up. I've got 2 ships, A and B. A starts 25 miles directly south of ship B. So A actually starts here, B starts here. As time goes on, A is going to go west, B is going to go south. So I've drawn a picture of a later point in time. Okay? I defined the distance that A travels as x, because it's horizontal, and I defined the distance that B travels as y, because it's vertical, and I defined the distance between them as z. You can define it however you want, but we're going to have to go with this because this is how I defined it. The other option for doing this is to define this distance as y and work it out in a different way. They're different approaches. The answer will be the same. So is everybody good with this picture? After a certain amount of time, B has traveled y units. This total distance is 25, so therefore the remaining amount is 25 minus y. X is pretty straightforward. Z is the distance between them. Okay, now, let's suppose this, we have 3 main options when we're solving these types of problems. Okay, ignoring the fact that they could be boats or cars or trains or planes, whatever it is. You have this scenario where you both start from the same point. One goes one direction, one goes the other. That's supposed to be a right angle there. What can you tell me about D in this case? Will the rate, will d dt in this case be positive or negative? Positive, because they're both traveling away from each other, so it's always got to be increasing. Second scenario is what we have here. One is heading in, the other one is heading out. Will it be... How long were you going to stand there before you said something? Or how long were you standing there? Like 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Like a couple hours now.
Okay. Are you thirsty?
Like 10 seconds.
We got chocolate.
You can have a seat over there behind Nick.
Where?
Nick, raise your hand. See that
Okay.
guy waving his hand around?
Yes.
Sit behind him.
Okay.
Good luck, Sterling.
Mathematical encouragement, I like it. Is dz dt in this case going to be positive or negative?
Positive.
Well, it could be either.
Could be either, good.
It could be
Maybe.
Now suppose that they're both heading inward.
negative.
Okay, so they're on a crash course. Car heading into an intersection, another car heading into an intersection, they're going to collide here. What can you tell me about D there?
Negative.
Negative. Okay, so the 3 main scenarios there. We're going to do the non-collision one right now. I already have the picture. That's step one. Step two, I have to define the variables. So x is the distance A travels. Y is the distance B travels. Z is distance between ships. Okay. Step three. What do we know? What are we solving for?
C, solving for Z, right?
d of z over
Find the
d.
rate at which the distance
Oh,
between
D
the.
is Z over D.
Okay, so let's start with what do we know? What is this?
dx over
Dx over dt is equal to 16. Positive or negative?
Positive.
How do you know it's positive?
sailing
Because it says it's positive. It won't always do that though.
Wait, what?
sailing
It's a speed.
if it's sailing west.
It's going away from the point that it started.
So what do you know about x? Is it getting bigger or smaller? It's getting bigger, so this would be positive. MPH. All right. What's this? dy dt. Positive or negative? Is y getting bigger or smaller? No, it's getting bigger. B's going that way. A's going this way. So the way that I have y defined means that this value is going to get larger, so it should be positive. And what are we looking for? What are we looking for? Find the rate at which the distance between the ships is changing. We're looking for dz dt equals question mark when what? Careful, t equals
0.5.
0.5. Okay. Why 0.5 and not 30? They're the same thing, aren't they?
No,
They're not?
not at all.
30 minutes isn't the same thing as a half hour?
But
Half an hour, but not 30 minutes, different units.
Good. So which unit should we use?
The ones given in the.
Yeah, so we're in miles per hour, so we can use that. Okie dokie. What next?
Equation.
And what would that equation be?
C squared. X squared plus 25 minus y squared.
That's a 5. Nick's all excited in case you didn't hear that. He said, oh, chain rule. But we don't have to do chain rule. We could multiply that out, yes? Which would you prefer?
Just change.
You might be saying to yourself, self, I don't want to do the chain rule, I want to multiply it out. If you multiply it out, however, I will warn you, you're going to get a whole bunch of dy dt's popping up. But both will get you to the same answer. Just a matter of how much you want to work.
yeah, sorry, we're doing chain.
Chain rule would be better here, especially since the chain isn't that bad. What's the chain of 25 minus y? Negative 1, yeah, but still close. Okay, here we go. Step 5. Derivative?
Yeah.
2z. Wow, that's horrible. That's a z. dz dt is equal to 2x dx dt plus, okay, here comes the fun. What's the derivative of 25 minus y raised to the second power? 2, that's a good start. Oh, that hurt. 2 times. Like it so far.
D times -1.
Times -1. Make it chain rule. Chain. Times
Times dy over dt.
dy over dt. Hot diggity. Michaela, this will be fun. How many unknowns in that equation?
6.
6. How many do we know? 2.
Yeah. Two
This is
unknowns.
bad.
Pretty
This is
open.
bad.
Stop now.
This is really bad. Yeah, there's 6 that we need to have 5, but we only know 2. That means we're missing 3. What? Yes, sir?
We know 3.
Which 3?
dx over dt.
dx dt, dy dt,
And t.
but t's not a variable there. Yeah. So now we quit. What are our options?
We cry.
Cry, quit.
Throw your iPad at the wall.
What's that?
Throw your iPad at the wall.
Throw your iPad at the wall. Cheat off your neighbor. Drop the class. Get the dog. Whatever.
Missed the door.
Let's take a sidebar, shall we? How about that puppy? We love the dirty equation.
Shout out to Peter.
And we'll move the sidebar up here in the upper right hand corner since we're running out of space. If I travel at 16 miles per hour for a half hour, what's x? 8. So x is equal to 16 times 0.5, which equals 8 miles. See? See? Sí, bueno. Y equals
20
20 times 0.5. Ooh, this is good. I needed 3, I got 2 more. Where does the third one come from?
Pythagorean theorem.
Pythagorean theorem. We got to come back over here. This is going to be a big sidebar. Z squared is equal to 8 squared is 64 plus 25 minus 10 is 15 squared is deuce and a quarter, which would mean 289, which I think is a perfect square. 17. Woo! Sidebar. I decided to put the sidebar in a poofy cloud this time.
That's a nice sidebar.
Thanks. Thanks. Professional.
Lots of practice.
Yep. So we're good now. I got all 5 that we need, right? I got z, I got x, I got y, I got dx dt, I got dy dt. Plug in. Oh, hey, by the way, quick helpful hint here. A 2, a 2, a 2. If you're feeling saucy, you can cross out the 2's. Yeah. Don't have to, though. It's your option. It's America. 17 times dz dt, which is what we're looking for, is equal to 8 times 16 plus 25 minus has 15 times -1. Don't forget that -1 times 20. dz dt is equal to, go ahead and knock yourselves out. How's it good in it?
132.94.
132.94. Okay, hold on. Let me ask you a simple question, Stephen. Does that make sense? Are those boats, one coming in and one going out, separating at 132 miles per hour? Okay, so it might be a math mistake in there. What do you got?
Don't we have to divide by z?
I did.
Probably just
No, you're just
2Z or not 2Z, that is the question. Whether we know one of the minds of men to suffer the...
no, because I got 131 right.
Wrong. That was close.
I got 1 point.
I got a negative 10 point something or another.
Hey, Chuck marks,
Alright.
that's it.
Give it to me again.
There it is.
Negative 10.118.
What was it? Is that a good or a bad?
No, I said good.
Good. Oh, good. Yeah, I got you.
Like good,
Good. Units.
Miles.
Mupaha.
Oh yeah, I got that now.
Or it could be muf. Yeah, like physics. Physics, pharmaceutical, you know, the pH.
Yeah, it's grasses and sort of.
Oh no, he hates FPS worse. which I bother with it all the time. Does that answer make sense? Well, when we started, we said we have no idea if it would be positive or negative. But if we look at it logically, this is going towards the point faster than this is going away. So simple logic would make you assume that that number is getting smaller. I think somewhere in here we've got all 9 parts taken care of. As you continue to work through these problems, you might find yourself not needing all 9 parts, but I would stress with you that if you use that as a guideline, you won't miss anything. And you'll see when I start grading these, I got the quiz on Wednesday, you'll see exactly what I'm looking for. I'm pretty much attacking these problems looking for all 9 parts. And so if you follow the 9 parts, you won't have any problems.
We get 8 points.
You want to make it 8 points?
Well, like,
Which one are we getting rid of?
that just doesn't make sense. Like, you can kind of just do that by yourself. Like, you don't need to write it.
That would pretty much be an internal thing. I don't really need you to write a diatribe on why you think that it works or doesn't work. Right. Any problems with this guy? Nope. We're good? Outstanding. So, I think we are done.
Do we do any?
Oh, look at that. Wrong button. Ooh, and this popped up for no apparent reason.
Here ended the lesson of
This. I forgot, I've been forgetting about it, but I remembered it when I was writing the slideshow. Aside from Khan Academy, which I'm sure you've all seen at some point in time, yes? There's some really good calculus videos on Khan Academy. Short, sweet, right to the point. There's also a lot of good examples on Khan Academy. But on this website, Patrick JMT,